You got Birds 365 streaming in. We appreciate you joining it, as we appreciate Mike Sielski joining us from Amarillo, Texas, which that's got to be the first question I ask you. What are you doing in Amarillo, Mikey?
Good morning, guys. I am. Last night I was reporting stuff about the Flyers' new president of hockey operations, Keith Jones, and today I am spending the day doing research and reporting for my next book. One of the gentlemen who is credited with dunking a basketball for the first time is a guy named Joe Fortenberry, who was a member of the 1936 U.S. Olympic team, and he lived most of his life in and around Amarillo, Texas. So I'm down here to speak to his son and talk to people about him, and then fly back up to Philly tomorrow.
The great Joe Fortenberry. You know, I told Jody that I was going to bring up Terry Funk because Terry Funk is huge in Amarillo. So and I'm a wrestling nerd. And Jody, by the way, Mike, was, Sielski's not going to get that reference. And you probably don't because I'm a nerd. But I said, don't dismiss Mike. I remember if you want something interesting to read, Mike did a big piece on Joe Saboldi back in the day.
Yeah, I did.
A couple years ago.
Yep.
And it was interesting. Notre Dame football star, pro wrestling champion. OSS, for people that don't know, is the forerunner of the CIA. So essentially, he was an American spy. So very interesting story. So Mike knows a little bit about pro wrestling.
I a tiny bit, John. I have no idea who Terry Funk is. I assumed he was a member, like he was a musician or something.
I knew you wouldn't get Terry Funk. But,
yeah.
You might get Terry Funk from Roadhouse. He was also
that's true. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Grand Funk, I know.
Yeah.
Grand Funk, but not Terry Funk.
And for your next greatest funks, put Terry in Grand
That's
Funk.
right. The updated national funk rankings.
All right. Mike Sielski down in Amarillo, but staying on top of things here in Philadelphia. Have you had a discussion yet with the rest of the Sielski clan? What times will gifts be opened on Christmas morning, since you're going to need to be down at Lincoln Financial Field a little later on in the afternoon? Are you and the wife getting up at the crack of dawn to make sure the kids get all their gifts ahead of time because dad's got to go?
Yeah, I traded texts with my wife about this yesterday, Jody, and I'm not just saying this because this affects my life as somebody who covers the Eagles. I hate this. I hate that the NFL is playing a game at 4:30 on Christmas afternoon when Christmas is a Monday. I'm sorry. No, this is not a day. These are not circumstances that the NFL needs to be injecting itself into the lives of hundreds of millions of people. It's Christmas. You don't have to own every single day. I'm sorry, you don't. And I really don't like this at all. I'm of a mind to write a column about it. Technically I'm on vacation, but I suppose I could anyway, because I hate the idea of this. I hate what it's going to do to families. It's enough that, the league had been inching this way anyway. I get that there are going to be some hardcore Eagles and football fans who are going to say, oh, this makes the day better. It doesn't. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. So I don't like it.
Now, here's my concern, Mike, when you talk about Christmas Day, because they've kind of stolen it away from the NBA after the last couple of years. Christmas 2024, I believe, is going to be on a Wednesday. Would they dare go that route to start bringing in we got Black Friday football? Are we going to get Christmas Wednesday football down the road because they want that day?
Yes, I have no doubt that we're going to get
really
that. None. The NFL is pointed toward football 7 days a week. They are. I really believe that. I really believe that. And they will. I guarantee I would bet my life there are people in the NFL offices already working on a way to get football on Wednesdays. And Christmas Wednesday would be a perfect time to test drive it. Look, we've already got football on Thursdays. We've already got it.
Yeah.
And part of what makes the NFL great and why everybody's interested in it is its scarcity. It is once a week with your team. The games really, really matter. There's only 17 of them. And now it's counteracting itself. The scarcity, it's taking away the scarcity. And, it's the act of a bully. It's the act of an institution that thinks it can just do whatever it wants to do. And I don't know any other way to respond to it other than saying I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm going to take Diet Coke off your hands. You said you'd bet anything. I'm going to bet you Diet Coke. They're not going there yet. Not till Wednesday. Sunday, Monday, maybe even a Thursday. If Christmas is falling on a Thursday, you get Amazon Plus. Oh, by the way, Amazon, we're going to add another game to you to make it a doubleheader. No, they're not going to go to.
Well, we'll see. You may be right, Jody, but we'll see down the road.
Right. In my lifetime, maybe. Certainly in your kid's lifetime, there's going to be Wednesday NFL football, but not just yet today. By the way, the kids pissed at Uncle Jody because I didn't give him the exacta on the Kentucky Derby last week. My horses ran second and third. They were damn close, but I did not cash for your son.
By the way, Jody, I had like 10 people ask me, did you ask Jody for Kentucky Derby info? And I didn't. And so I got lambasted by a lot of people for that.
My two horses ran second and third, so it proves at least I've got some semblance of knowledge as to what I'm talking about.
Man knows, Jody Mac knows.
I didn't make enough money. I needed to make more money. All right, let's get back to making money, talking birds. Christmas Day, we know it's the Giants here in town. The San Francisco 49ers coming in later in the season, NFC rematch on the week 13 of the year, early December. John and I were just debating before you joined us as to who will be the 49ers quarterback by that time. Now, a lot of it is going to be tied into what the hell is their record on December 3rd. But if you were speculating today, who will be the starting quarterback for the 49ers? And will it lead to whining of 49er fans that it's unfair that they have to play the Eagles with this other person with whoever happens to be the quarterback?
Can I guess John Brody or Steve Bono?
Steve Bono.
He's a Philly guy, right?
Yeah, Norristown zone.
Yeah, Norristown. UCLA, Steve
That's
Bono.
Right. That's right. I'm going to guess it's Trey Lance. I don't think anybody wants to trade for Trey Lance. I know the 49ers have floated that idea out there. I'm just going to guess that Brock Purdy or whoever else might be starting by then is beat up. Or I'm just going to say at some point the 49ers have to see what this guy who they traded up a boatload to get with the third pick in the draft has got. And there's enough all around the rest of their roster to say that it's Trey Lance.
Now it's only, let's see, it's 8:30 here, Mike, 7:30 where you are. I want to give Eagles fans credit because I haven't gotten it yet. I'm sure I'll get it some point during the day. The disrespect shown by the NFL for not putting them in the season opener, which is going to be, of all people, the Detroit Lions facing the Kansas City Chiefs. Strange, a little bit of a projection. There certainly seem to be on board with what we all think is an up-and-coming Detroit team. But, if it turns into 31-7 in the third quarter, they're going to hear about it. No Eagles Chiefs. Is that disrespect by that horrible NFL toward the Philadelphia Eagles?
John, you know this. Jody, you know this. It's not disrespect. It's logic and economics. It's the first game of the season. The defending champs get to play on opening night, and you can put just about any other team on there, and you're going to get eyeballs for that game. And so the Detroit Lions are perceived to be an up-and-coming team. And so, they've got a bit of a curiosity factor. And let's see how they can do on a big stage against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and the Chiefs. So I'm not surprised by this. I don't think anybody should. It's not about disrespect. It's about what games are going to be big no matter what. And you don't need to waste, for lack of a better way of putting it, Eagles Chiefs on the opening night of the season when everybody's going to be watching anyway.
All right. So when do you think, if Mrs. Kelce is right and the Eagles and Chiefs are week number 2, what is the advantageous position there? Why would you, if it's a Super Bowl rematch, it's going to be the Super Bowl, even if they play in December, it's still the Super Bowl rematch. Why do you think they went week 2 if Donna Kelsey is right?
Well, it's the Super Bowl rematch, Jody, but the Super Bowl rematch in week 2 is a lot more promising, I think, than the Super Bowl rematch in week 11 in December, because by December, who knows? Maybe Patrick Mahomes is hurt. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't playing as well as he had last year. Maybe both of those teams aren't quite as good. You wring the juice while the Super Bowl rematch still has some juice. You just don't need to do it on opening night, because that's going to have juice no matter what.
Well, if you don't mind me jumping in, John, is it not, let's say they played week 12 instead of week 2, isn't it the Super Bowl preview rather than the Super Bowl rematch?
No idea. No idea. We have absolutely no idea.
Give me the best team in the AFC and the best team in the NFC today, Mike Sielski.
Today, it's those two teams.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm serious.
Thank you very much.
But Jody, you know this. You know this. 11 or 12 weeks into a season, we don't know who the best teams are going to be. We didn't know the Eagles were going to be the best team in the NFC last year at this point in the offseason.
Jody picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, he bet on the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. Did you bet on them to win or just go?
Both.
All right. There we go.
Needed that win badly in February, but we did okay. I understood, Mike, that nobody knows what the hell's going to happen 12 weeks into the season. But when you've got the two teams that are the betting favorites, the media favorites, most people who understand football's favorites, it's not a bad prognostication to go, yeah, that could be a Super Bowl preview game months before it happens.
Yeah, you're right, Jody. But I do look at every NFL season as its own entity, with certain exceptions. You could always count on the Patriots carrying over year to year with Brady and Belichick. You can certainly do that with the Chiefs. But I'm not quite ready yet to say, okay, yeah, week 11 or 12, we know the Chiefs will be 10-1 and we know the Eagles will be 8-3. We might not. I think the chances are pretty good that that's the case, but the NFL doesn't like taking risks like that. They want sure bets.
Yeah. Bigger moment in Philadelphia, Mike Sielski. Schedule release. Sean Desai speaking for the first time. You're going to miss it. I'm sorry. That's a big moment. Seminal moment, some might call it. Or Game 6. I'll even throw Keith Jones in there. And who knows? I mean, you work for WIP. Jody works for WIP. Maybe you're running the Sixers. Maybe Jody's running the Eagles down the road.
Nobody wants that. Look, it's funny, John. I joked about this on Twitter the other day that this Game 6 for the Sixers, Game 5 the other night and Game 6 tonight are the two biggest games for the Sixers in a generation.
Yeah.
Like we are talking even bigger than, in a way, I would say comparable to 2001 when you talk about the Game 7s against the Raptors and the Bucks in that playoff run. But, this playoff stretch that they're in has so many ramifications for them as a franchise. They're going to break the team up afterwards. They might break it up anyway, even if they get to the finals. Who the heck knows? But we all know how things operate around here. And in pro sports in general, in so many ways, the anticipation of what's going to happen in sports has overtaken what actually transpires on the field or the court or the rink. It's nuts because shows like this and shows like the ones that Jody and I host and First Take and First Things First and all these things, they're all built on speculation and they're all built on what hasn't happened yet. And so to a certain degree, I think there is going to be more interest in the Eagles schedule release. Also because people plan their whole fall and winters around that. Which games are we going to? Which trips are we making? How are we handling Christmas this year? So it's a great question as to what really is going to drive more interest in the Philadelphia area.
All right, Mike, speaking of speculation, I'm going to get you to speculate for me right now. If we have the exact perfect understanding of Jonathan Gannon's defense, conceptually what it was and how it played out on the field during his 2 years here in Philadelphia. And don't kid yourself, it changed from year 1 to year 2 because of the addition of some talent on the defensive side that Howie Roseman gave Jonathan Gannon. So the combination of the entire 2 years, but with more of a lean toward year number 2, because that's the most recent, and that's with the talent that they had. Sean Desai's defense will be a 100% carbon copy, a looks pretty damn much the same, but yeah, because of the change of players, he's trying to do what he can do to fit, so he has to adjust. You know, Sean Desai's got his own thought about what football is supposed to be, and it's similar to what Jonathan Gannon did, but surely not the same. What's the Eagle defense in 2023 going to look like as compared to when Jonathan Gannon was pushing the buttons?
I think it'll look relatively similar, Jody. I think part of the reason it'll look similar is that Nick Sirianni and to a certain degree Howie Roseman, like, this is the philosophy they have about what they want their defense to do. They want to be able to generate pressure on the opposing quarterback without having to blitz too much so they can cover in the back. I don't think Desai will be too different. But look, personnel is going to dictate some of this. You got to find out about Nakobe Dean at linebacker. You're going to have a different rotation along the defensive line. The secondary is a bit of a question mark. Just bless you. Just because of the uncertainty at safety, and because James Bradbury and Darius Slay are each a year older. So it won't be a carbon copy, but I think it'll be fairly similar. Maybe John disagrees with me, but I think all in all, it won't be as passive, I don't think, but it'll be similar.
Yeah, very similar. I mean, and I do think, Nick has said it a couple times. I mean, it's going to stay relatively. I compare it to the offense, Mike, and the shift from Nick Sirianni to Shane Steichen. Same offense, but you have a different guy, so it's going to be a little bit different because they're not, clones. People act differently in the moment, so you're going to have the same base philosophy, the same schematics. But Sean Desai's different than JG. So maybe on 3rd and 30, he's not trying to fool the other team and he gets off the field. Maybe if he's lucky enough to get to the Super Bowl, he does something different in a key moment and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
But the scheme, the philosophy, that's not changing. And, I got a bunch of fans yesterday when I announced that Desai was going to be talking. They're asking, can you ask him if Jordan Davis is going to play a 3-down player, if Nolan Smith is going to play? I'm like, no, because I already know that.
Yeah.
I already know that stuff. And, as you try to get these guys talking, which is becoming more and more difficult, you get more information off the record, to be honest, than on the record. But Nick Sirianni's on the record numerous times. Explosive plays, turnovers, get home with 4. All the Vic Fangio stuff we know and love, the hits that I do not love, but certainly Eagles fans love. So I'll frame it this way to you, Mike. I don't think Eagles fans dislike Jonathan Gannon. They do, but I don't think they understand the reason why. I think they dislike the modern brand of football. In other words, so many teams run the Fangio scheme, the passive scheme, because they think it's the best way to win. Kyle Shanahan has said it's the toughest defense to deal with. Matt LaFleur has said it. Sean McVay has said it. That's why so many teams run it. Buying that or selling that?
Buying it. Buying it's the reason that Eagles fans generally didn't like Gannon. I think there are reasons beyond that. I think if you listen to him talk, you could sense that he was a short timer in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't like that. People want to feel like a coach or a player loves being in Philadelphia and wants to stay in Philadelphia for the rest of his career. But I think that the scheme aspect of it is part of it. There's just something visceral about Eagles fans. They want their teams blitzing. They want their teams relentless. They don't like, passivity in any regard. And certainly Gannon schemed it certainly that way. And you're right. That's the preferred way to play in the NFL these days. I do wonder if that's going to change. I've made this point dozens of times, and I wonder maybe if this is the year where it's really a turning point, where running the ball is going to become like the way to exploit the stagnant system in the NFL, right? That teams are playing the Fangio system or being passive, and the way to move the ball on them is punch them in the mouth by running the ball right down their throats. You can see the Atlanta Falcons already heading in that direction. They're banking that they can win games by road grading teams, even with an unknown at quarterback in Desmond Ridder. So, and the Eagles did it last year to a great degree, whether you're talking about Hurts or the run game and the offensive line or whatever. So I wonder if that might change. That might be a factor that might change strategic approaches around the league before too long.
I think that the defenders of the Fangio system would use the word conservative rather than what one do you just
passive.
Use? Passive. Yeah, they don't want to hear passive, but they'd say conservative. It's a little bit more conservative.
Yeah.
No blitzing, no, not Buddy Ryan, not Jim Johnson, but with both you guys in it will be very similar to the defense we've had here before, as we believe the offense is going to be very similar as well, because there's not even an outsider coming in. Sean Desai is that, even though we believe that it'll be very similar to what Gannon did. All they're changing on offense is the passing, the quarterback coach becoming the offensive coordinator. Sounds like it should be a seamless transition, but I know both John and I truly appreciated the play calling ability of Shane Steichen. Easier said than done for Johnson stepping into Steichen's shoes. At least from the side standpoint, he's replacing a guy who nobody liked to begin with anyway. So he's going to get a little benefit of the doubt. If the offense gets off a little slow, will people be questioning, yeah, when can we get Shane Steichen back? Who's this Johnson guy? We need our play caller who got us to the Super Bowl back. How tough is it going to be for Johnson to step into that position?
Well, it'll be tough, Jody, because Shane Steichen was really good at what he did. He was a sharp guy. And the one thing I think that might mitigate that, though, is if Jalen Hurts kind of continues this ascendancy that we've seen, right? Like the one thing you don't necessarily take into consideration when you're evaluating a play caller is that maybe his players are just better one year to the next. And maybe Jalen Hurts can do more things as a quarterback for the way he could do more things last year than he could in 2021. He was just a better player, obviously, in 2022. And maybe he gets a little bit better next year, or maybe the run game is different and better. And it allows them to do more things because they have a different variety of running backs. They have more guys who can hit it up, kind of up the middle or cut through more sharply through an opening than Miles Sanders did. Go back and watch that Super Bowl, for instance. There are a few times where Miles bounces it outside.
Play one,
right, when he shouldn't have.
Yeah,
exactly. So there are all those sorts of factors that go into it. But yeah, I think there is going to be some natural skepticism if the offense doesn't get off to a rip-roaring start because it was so good with Steichen at the controls.
At Mike Sielski, make sure you follow Mike on Twitter. Listen to him on Sports Radio WIP. Obviously, read him at Inquirer.com. The best columnist in the city, in my opinion. Down in Amarillo, we got to thank you again. Do some research on Terry Funk while you're down there as well.
I'll see what I can do, John.
But he's doing research for his next book, which is The Origin of the Slam Dunk, the history. That's going to be interesting. You know, what's funny, I think a couple days ago, the Lakers became the betting favorites to win the NBA championship. The Sixers were second. We might see Sixers-Lakers. So that'll give you a nice little bump for the rise of KobeBook.com. Hopefully we can see Sixers-Lakers.
I hope so. Your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah. But I'll end it here with you. We just talked about the coaches, a lot of stuff. Peter King didn't do the Eagles any favors this week. In his Football Morning in America column, he did his, and he admits, his way too early power rankings. But he put about 6 or 7 tiers, and the Eagles were alone on tier 1. Can't find a weakness, Mike Sielski. Can you find a weakness with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, look, the defensive secondary and the middle of the defense at the linebacker has some questions for me. The potential for some of the younger players stepping in and not being as productive on the defense is a possibility. You know, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham getting a little bit older, the guys who are a little bit younger, not quite ready to play at their level. I think there's the possibility for some regression there. I also think, John, that stuff just happens sometime. I remember very distinctly, I'm not even sure Peter will remember this, but I remember very distinctly Peter saying something very similar about the Eagles heading into the 2005 season. Again, they had lost in the Super Bowl the year before, and he went to Lehigh and went to train. It may not have been Lehigh. It may have been in that offseason. He said, you know, I don't see a weakness in this team. I'm looking around. I don't see a weakness at all. The Eagles should get back to the Super Bowl and probably win it. And then Terrell Owens happened and Donovan McNabb got hurt and there was chaos and injury and driveway sit-ups and all kinds of stuff. And they went, 6-10. So stuff happens. And looking at them on paper, as Jody and I kind of talked about earlier, are they the best team in the NFC right now? Yeah, they probably are. But cliche as games aren't played on paper, and I'm sure a weakness will manifest itself.
Right, but I know my partner said it, and a lot of other people said it. They think last year's team was better than the team that won the Super Bowl. So
I thought so too. I did.
Yeah,
I did.
If there's going to be a drop off, it's going to be from a higher starting point to begin with, even though they don't have the ring to show for it. And who would be this? I'll probably get you in trouble with this question. If there is someone Terrell Owens like, because no one is Terrell Owens. We'll all admit to that right now, both in talent and behavior. But if there's someone with Terrell tendencies that could knock the ship off
he already left. He already left. He's in Detroit.
That's that doesn't count. I'm talking about someone who's here today, who is the guy who could rock the boat a little bit for the Eagles this year. If you're pointing to it as a possibility.
Well, I'll say this, Jody. I mean, he just joined the team, and he'll be a rookie, so he's not going to cause trouble in the same way that Terrell Owens would cause problems. But I'm still not convinced Jalen Carter is a sure thing, and it's a different situation from a star receiver like Owens who wants to assert himself. I think there are questions about this kid's maturity. I just think there are, and it doesn't mean he's not going to be a rip-roaring success. It doesn't mean that he's not going to get in with this locker room and this group of teammates and this culture and figure it all out. It just means the jury's out for right now. And if they swing and miss on that pick, you know, that could be damaging to them.
So let me add one more to it, and then we'll let you run. Along those lines, Matt Ariza, the punt god, who was released by the Buffalo Bills last year in training camp, has now been basically cleared, certainly of all criminal charges for what he was accused of, being part of a gang rape. The video evidence shows he wasn't even there at the time that he left earlier, but he still faces a civil lawsuit. So does the new Eagles defensive tackle, and they used the ninth pick in the draft to get him. If that's what they're using as a measuring stick, we'll take someone who's facing a civil suit, but not someone who's potentially facing criminal charges. Why wouldn't the Eagles have interest in Matt Ariza? Because I would suggest he comes in, signs tomorrow. He's the best punter in Eagles camp, and it's not really close.
Yeah, I think on paper, Jody, your logic makes sense, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to the Eagles signing Matt Ariza, but the Eagles, as we know, do their homework on these guys. Big Dom does his homework, and it's certainly possible that even with Ariza being cleared in a court of law, I don't know anything about him as a guy, like just as a human being, right? And maybe there's stuff that comes up in the background check where you say, you know what, we still don't feel comfortable with him. I don't know enough about Ariza one way or another to say that this is a guy that the Eagles ought to be bringing into their locker room. He might be. It's certainly possible, but he might not be for reasons apart from the outcome of that criminal investigation.
Mike, great stuff. We not only appreciate you coming on, but getting up early down there in Amarillo, Texas to jump aboard with us. When is the dunking book due out?
It's supposed to be out next year. I have until November to finish the first draft of the manuscript, and we're hoping it comes out in 24. Hopefully on Christmas Day on a Wednesday, right in the middle of the
There you go. Yeah, exactly right.
Nice.
He is the scheduling god. Mike Sielski here with us. I'm Birds 365. Mike, thanks much. We'll get you back in a couple weeks.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
Lead
Mike.
columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer.
That was a nice plug. Yeah, get it in there, baby.
Mike Sielski here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac coming back. We've still got plenty of time to go today. And oh, by the way, do not forget, as we've told you during the week, since it is scheduling week, we do not know when the Cowboys and the Eagles will be playing. We are hoping that one of those games leaked out. We've had 3 leakages on the Eagles' upcoming schedule for the season. We don't know when the boys and the Birds will be facing off, but we do know that John McMullen, who covers the Cowboys for The Athletic, is going to jump in, talk about the Cowboys offseason. We've been previewing the 3 divisional opponents of the Eagles this week. We did the Giants. We did the Commanders. We got the Cowboys yet to come. John McMullen of The Athletic, Cowboy Beat Guy, is going to join us in about, 25 minutes. But keep it here with us right now on Birds 360.